Your neighbors are going to walk past your yard this July and stop. Not because you worked harder than them, not because you spent more money than them, but because you made one smart decision this April that they didn't. 11 perennials, 1 month, a yard so full, so alive, and so covered in color that people slow down just to look at it. These plants spread on their own. They come back every single year. They multiply for free while you're sitting on your porch. And if you miss April, you lose the entire season. So let's not waste another second. Here's exactly what to plant right now. Plant 1, Creeping Phlox. Most people have never planted this, and every single one of them regrets it the first time they see a neighbor's slope absolutely buried in color in early spring. That is what Creeping Phlox does, and nothing else on the market does it quite like this. Picture a waterfall, but instead of water, it's electric pink, bright white, deep magenta, and soft lavender cascading down a slope, over a wall, or along a pathway edge. That is Creeping Phlox in April and May. And, unlike most spring bloomers that give you 2 weeks and disappear, the foliage stays evergreen all year. Your garden holds its structure even in January. Phlox subulata is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9. That covers nearly every gardening region in the continental United States. It spreads outward by 2 feet or more every single season through trailing stems that root themselves wherever they touch the soil. No help from you, no intervention needed. It just grows. Here is what most gardening videos never tell you about Creeping Phlox. A slope covered in it never needs mowing again. Municipalities plant it on highway embankments specifically to eliminate erosion and eliminate maintenance permanently. That problem slope in your yard, the one you've been fighting with a mower or ignoring completely, is this plant's perfect home. Plant it in full sun to light shade in well-draining soil. After it blooms, shear it back lightly. That one cut keeps it dense, encourages stronger spread next season, and prevents it from getting woody in the center. Tell me in the comments right now, do you have a slope, a bare patch, or a spot in your yard that has defeated every single plant you've tried? Because I promise you, almost every answer to that problem is showing up on this list today. Drop it below. I read every one. Plant 2, Daylily. This plant grows in Alaska, it grows in Florida, it grows in the Arizona desert, and in the Minnesota frost. If that one fact doesn't tell you everything you need to know about how unstoppable it is, nothing will. Hemerocallis, the daylily, is hardy in USDA zones 1 through 11, the entire country, every single state. There is almost no yard in America where this plant will not grow, spread, and perform year after year without complaining once. And the color range is staggering. Over 80,000 registered cultivars. Deep burgundy, soft peach, bright orange, pale lemon, creamy white, rich purple, vivid red, and bicolors that look almost too good to be real. When you plant a mix of early, mid-season, and late varieties together, you get continuous waves of bloom from early summer all the way through mid-fall. Every 4 to 5 years, divide the clump. One plant gives you 10 to 15 divisions. At $10 per plant at any nursery, one original daylily eventually produces over $100 worth of free plants straight from your own yard. That is not gardening, that is investing. And here is what almost nobody mentions. Mass-planted daylilies shade the ground beneath them so completely that weeds cannot establish. Highway departments use them on roadsides across America for exactly this reason. Your bare, weedy border is solved with one April planting decision. One critical warning: daylilies are acutely toxic to cats. Every part of the plant, including the pollen. If cats spend time in your garden, skip this one entirely or fence it off. For dog owners, generally safe. 2 plants in, and I want to ask you something. How much money have you spent at the garden center in the last 3 springs replacing things that died? If this channel saves you even one unnecessary trip, subscribing is the smartest free decision you make today. Hit that button right now. It costs you nothing, and it means this kind of information finds you every single week. Plant 3, Bee Balm. If you have never had a hummingbird hover 2 feet from your face while you're sitting in your own backyard, this is the plant that makes that happen.
And once it happens once, you will never garden without bee balm again. Monarda didyma is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9. The flowers are spiky, tubular, and vivid, blazing red, deep pink, rich purple, and bright white. They look unlike anything else in the garden. And that tubular shape is not just beautiful, it is biologically engineered for hummingbird feeding. Their beaks fit perfectly inside. They come back every day, all season long. Monarchs visit it, tiger swallowtails visit it, bumblebees work it constantly. One planting of bee balm supports more wildlife species than almost anything else on this list combined. Something that will genuinely surprise you, bee balm is in the mint family. The leaves are completely edible and brew into a tea that tastes remarkably similar to Earl Grey, specifically the bergamot note that gives Earl Grey its character. You are growing a wildlife garden and a functional kitchen herb at the same time. It spreads through underground rhizomes and fills a large space within 2 to 3 seasons. For best results, choose mildew-resistant cultivars. Jacob Klein for deep red, raspberry wine for rich pink. Both perform beautifully across most American growing zones with far less maintenance than older varieties. Picture that hummingbird moment. That is what this channel is actually about. Not just plants, but the moments that happen because of the right plants in the right place. If this video is already giving you that, subscribe right now. The next video is just as good, so is the one after that. Don't let this channel disappear on you. Subscribe before you go 1 second further.
Plant 4. Black-Eyed Susan. Black-Eyed Susan grows wild along American roadsides from Maine to Texas. You have driven past it your entire life, and people still pull into garden centers every spring and pay $9 a pot for something nature has been growing for free along every highway in this country for centuries. That stops right now. Rudbeckia fulgida goldstorm is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9. Golden yellow petals radiating out from a dark chocolate center that is almost black. The contrast is vivid, electric, and genuinely beautiful in a way that photographs don't fully do justice to. You have to see it in a garden, catching afternoon light, to understand why people stop their cars to look at it. And here's the part that makes it truly exceptional. It blooms from July all the way through October. Right when most summer gardens start looking exhausted and finished, Goldstorm is just hitting its stride. When your neighbors' gardens are brown and tired in August, yours is still going strong. University studies confirm that the Goldstorm cultivar specifically blooms longer and more prolifically than the standard species. This is not marketing language from a seed catalog. This is documented horticultural research from institutions that test plant performance under real conditions. When you are standing in the nursery choosing between varieties, Goldstorm is the one you want, every time. It spreads 2 ways simultaneously. Underground rhizomes push outward each season, expanding the root colony quietly beneath the soil without you seeing it happening. And the seed heads drop seeds that germinate into brand new plants the following spring. You plant 1 in April. By year 2, the clump is visibly larger. By year 3, you have a sweeping colony you never touched, never watered, never fertilized beyond what rain and soil provided naturally. Leave those seed heads standing through winter. Do not cut them down in your fall cleanup. Goldfinches, sparrows, and chickadees feed on them from October straight through February. You are feeding wildlife through the hardest, coldest months of the year at 0 cost, while your neighbors are spending money on plastic bird feeders filled with processed seed mix. Your garden feeds the birds for free. That is the native plant advantage in action. As a North American native, Goldstorm, once established, needs significantly less water, less fertilizer, and less attention than nearly any non-native plant you can buy at that same garden center. It was built for American soil. It belongs in American gardens. It has been growing on this continent since long before anyone was selling it in a pot. Plant 5. Yarrow, Achillea millefolium. This plant grows in gravel. It grows in cracked, dry, hardpan. It grows in places where you have already killed 3 other things and walked away in frustration. And then it blooms for 6 straight months without asking you for a single thing in return. Not water, not fertilizer, not attention. Nothing. Achillea millefolium is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9. Flat-topped flower clusters in yellow, white, pink, coral, and deep red depending on the cultivar. Paprika and Strawberry Seduction are two standout named varieties with rich, warm tones that look stunning against silver foliage or cool blue flowers. The foliage itself is feathery, silvery green, and intensely aromatic, which is precisely why deer and rabbits walk right past it without a second look. The scent puts them off before they ever get close enough to consider tasting it. Yarrow releases natural allopathic compounds into the surrounding soil, chemicals that actively suppress weed seed germination in the area around it. You're getting a built-in, biological weed barrier working from the root system itself. No weed fabric underneath it, no extra mulch layer on top of it. The plant handles suppression on its own terms. And it goes even further than that. Yarrow flowers attract parasitic wasps, lacewings, and hoverflies in significant numbers. Insects that prey on aphids, whiteflies, spider mites, and the common soft-bodied pests that quietly destroy your other plants all season long. While yarrow is blooming in your garden, it is running a biological pest management program that you never scheduled, never paid for, and never have to think about. That is genuinely remarkable for a flowering perennial. Rich, heavily amended soil makes yarrow floppy, weak, and disappointing. It leans, it falls open, it underperforms. Poor, dry, rocky, neglected soil makes it bloom harder, stand taller, and spread more aggressively than you expected. Plant it in your worst soil. Give it your most neglected spot. That is not settling for less. That is matching the plant to its ideal conditions, and the results will prove it. It spreads aggressively through rhizomes underground and self-seeds heavily on top of that expansion. To cover a large bare area fast and cheaply, yarrow is one of the most reliable and cost-effective ways to do it anywhere in America. And here's the economic reality that makes it even better. Every division you dig out of an established clump is a complete, viable, blooming plant. At nursery prices, one 3-year-old yarrow clump can yield 8 to 10 free divisions in a single morning. That is real money, from a shovel and 30 minutes of your time. I want you to answer this honestly in the comments. What is the one spot in your yard that has defeated every single plant you have ever tried to grow there? Tell me what state you're in and what you've already attempted, because I guarantee at least 3 plants on this list were specifically built for exactly that problem. Drop it below. I read every comment. Plant 6. Catmint. If deer have eaten your garden 2 years running and you were officially done being patient about it, this is the conversation you needed to have before you ever bought another plant, before you spent another $1 on something that was just going to become a deer's breakfast by morning. Nepeta X Fasani, Walker's Low, is hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8. Lavender blue flowers over silvery gray aromatic foliage from late spring through midsummer. It mounds to about 2 feet tall and cascades naturally and beautifully over pathway edges, border fronts, driveway edges, and low retaining walls with zero effort or training from you. It finds its own shape, and its shape is elegant. Deer evaluate plants almost entirely by scent before they ever attempt to eat them. Catmint's aromatic oils are strong enough to repel deer at the approach stage before contact even happens, before they are close enough to taste it. Unlike spray repellents that wash off in the first rain and need reapplying every 2 to 3 weeks all season long, this plant is the repellent. It is always on, all day, every day, all season, year after year without a single reapplication. Cut it back by half immediately after the first bloom flush ends. Do not skip this step. Wait 3 weeks after cutting. It comes back fuller and more vigorous than it was before and produces a complete second wave of flowers that carries all the way through late summer. 2 full bloom seasons from one plant in 1 year at absolutely no additional cost. That is the kind of return most gardeners don't expect from a single perennial. From a pure design standpoint, Catmint is one of the most versatile and forgiving border plants available to American gardeners right now. It softens hard structural lines along pathways and driveways. It flows naturally at the front of any perennial bed. It pairs with roses, with ornamental grasses, with cone flowers, with almost anything you place near it. Professional landscape designers who charge hundreds of dollars an hour reach for Catmint constantly. It solves problems other plants create. Now you know exactly why. The pollinators that work Catmint are extraordinary in both number and variety. Dozens of bee species visited regularly throughout the season, constantly working. If your vegetable garden is not producing the yields it should, or your fruit trees are setting less fruit than expected, the answer might simply be that you do not have enough reliable pollinator plants in your immediate growing area. Catmint addresses that problem while simultaneously solving your deer problem and filling your border with color for 2 seasons. That is 3 problems solved by 1 plant. 6 plants in, and if you have genuinely learned something in the last few minutes that your garden needed, I want you to do one thing before plant number 7. Subscribe right now. Not at the end of the video, now. Because here is what I know about gardeners who subscribe in the middle of a video. They are the ones who actually come back. They are the ones who implement what they learn. They are the ones whose gardens look completely different 2 seasons from now. Be that gardener. Hit the subscribe button right now.
Plant 7. Hardy Geranium, or Cranesbill. This is the most underused spreading perennial in American home gardening right now. Experienced gardeners have it in every border they own, and they do not talk about it much because part of them quietly likes that their neighbors don't know what it is. Beginners have genuinely never heard of it, and that gap between who knows it and who doesn't is precisely why it belongs on this list. This is not the annual geranium you see in every gas station parking lot, every grocery store garden display, and every big box store entrance every spring. That is a pelargonium, completely different plant. It dies at the first frost and needs replacing every single year. Hardy geranium is a true perennial. It returns, it spreads, it divides into free plants. The value comparison between the two is not even close, and yet most American gardeners are buying the one that disappears every October instead of the one that keeps giving for decades. Geranium X Cantabrigiense is hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8. Look specifically for Biocolo, soft white flowers with a delicate pink blush that photographs beautifully, or Carmina for deeper, richer rose pink. Both are proven performers across American growing zones. Both spread reliably and consistently without ever becoming the kind of invasive problem that takes over a bed uninvited. Low mounding foliage that stays attractive all season and then turns rich bronze red in fall as temperatures drop. Flowers emerge in late spring and continue through mid-summer. In Zone 6 and warmer, it is semi-evergreen, contributing green ground cover structure through most of winter when everything around it has gone completely dormant and brown. Hardy geranium handles dry shade, the notoriously difficult, stubbornly unforgiving condition under large established trees where surface roots compete aggressively for every available drop of moisture, better than almost any other spreading perennial of comparable beauty you can buy in this country. That dark corner under your oak, your maple, your magnolia that has swallowed every plant you have ever tried to grow there. Plant Geranium X Cantabrigiense this April and revisit that spot in September. It will not look the same. Shear it back hard after first bloom, 1 cut. It responds within 2 to 3 weeks with a flush of completely fresh foliage and, in most seasons, a genuine second round of flowers. Beyond that 1 annual cut, virtually no maintenance required.
Plant 8. Garden Phlox. There is one plant on this entire list that you will smell before you see it, not from a few feet away, from across the yard. On a still summer evening, standing near your back door with a glass of something cold, you will catch that fragrance before you even look up and locate where it's coming from. And that moment, that specific, quiet, unexpected moment, is why gardeners have grown this plant continuously for over 100 years. Phlox paniculata is hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8. Large, dome-shaped flower clusters, sometimes 6 inches or more across, packed tightly with individual florets in pink, purple, deep red, pure white, and striking bicolors that look almost painted. It blooms mid to late summer, precisely when the spring flush is finished and your garden desperately needs something to step forward and carry it through to fall. Garden Phlox fills that gap with more visual impact and more fragrance than almost anything else you could choose. On a still summer evening, that fragrance carries 30 feet from the plant. It fills outdoor seating areas. It comes through open windows into rooms you are not even in. For gardeners who spend their evenings outside, and for older gardeners particularly, for whom the evening garden is one of life's genuine pleasures, this plant transforms that experience completely and permanently. Here is how you eliminate the one issue that gives garden phlox an undeserved bad reputation: powdery mildew. Choose mildew-resistant cultivars, and this issue largely disappears. David for pure, clean white, one of the most mildew-resistant phlox cultivars ever developed. Robert Poor for vibrant purple pink with exceptional vigor. Gina for soft lavender pink with mildew resistance that has been verified in university performance trials across multiple American growing regions. Beyond cultivar selection, plant with adequate air circulation between plants, water at the base rather than from overhead, and those three decisions together give you years of spectacular, fragrant, trouble-free bloom. Cut stems and bring them indoors. Garden phlox in a vase fills an entire room with fragrance for a full week. For any gardener who loves fresh-cut flower arrangements at home, this is one of the highest value, highest reward perennials on this entire list. You are growing a garden showpiece and a florist-quality cut flower in the same plant.
Plant 9. Goldenrod. Millions of Americans have blamed this plant for their fall allergies every single year for decades. They are wrong, completely, scientifically wrong. And that one widespread mistake has kept one of the most beautiful, most ecologically valuable, most spectacular native plants in North America out of American home gardens for an entire generation. Today, that changes. Goldenrod blooms at exactly the same time as ragweed. Ragweed is the actual allergy culprit. Ragweed produces lightweight, wind-carried pollen that travels through the air, enters your sinuses, and triggers your immune system. Goldenrod produces heavy, sticky pollen that is carried exclusively by insects, bees, butterflies, beetles, from flower to flower. It cannot become airborne. It physically cannot enter your sinuses. Goldenrod has never caused a single allergy attack in the history of its existence. It simply bloomed nearby while ragweed did the damage and took the blame for it. That is one of the greatest cases of mistaken identity in American gardening history. Solidago rugosa/fireworks is hardy in USDA zones 4 through 9. The name is not an exaggeration. The flower stems arch outward and downward in long, graceful sprays covered in tiny golden yellow flowers that radiate in every direction, exactly like fireworks frozen mid-explosion. It is one of the most dramatic and distinctive plant silhouettes available to American gardeners in the fall season. Nothing else looks quite like it. It blooms late summer through fall, September and October in most zones, which makes it one of the most strategically valuable plants on this entire list. Most perennials peak in June and July. By September, options are thin. Goldenrod fills that late-season gap with bold, vivid golden color precisely when your garden needs it most before the first frost arrives. Goldenrod supports over 100 species of native bees, butterflies, and beneficial insects. Over 100! It is one of the most ecologically productive flowering plants native to North America. Growing it in your yard is one of the most direct, most measurable contributions a home gardener can make to supporting the local insect ecosystem that every food crop and flowering plant in your area depends on. It spreads enthusiastically through underground rhizomes. In open, naturalized areas, give it room and let it run. In a formal border, divide it every 3 years in early spring to keep it contained and performing at its absolute peak. Every division is a free plant that you can spread to other areas of your yard or share with a neighbor who is still blaming it for their sneezing. Before this video, did you believe goldenrod caused allergies? Be completely honest in the comments, because if you did, you are in extraordinarily good company. Almost every American gardener believes this, and now you know the truth. Drop your answer below, and tell me what state you're gardening in while you're at it. Plant 10. Lamb's Ear. Stachys byzantina is hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8. The leaves are covered in a dense layer of soft, silvery white woolly hair that feels precisely like its name suggests, lamb's ear. Exactly that soft, exactly that gentle. Children stop when they pass it. Adults stop. Visitors who have never gardened a day in their lives stop and reach down without being invited to. It is one of the very few plants that creates a physical, sensory memory in the people who encounter it. That memory brings people back to your garden. That memory is what makes your outdoor space genuinely unforgettable. Beyond the texture, and the texture alone would be enough to justify planting it, the silver-white foliage creates visual contrast against virtually every other color plant in the garden. It makes purple flowers look deeper and richer. It makes pink flowers softer and more romantic. It makes red flowers more vivid and saturated. Landscape designers use it as a living color amplifier, a foliage plant that makes every plant surrounding it perform better visually. You are not just planting lamb's ear, you are improving every plant you put near it. The color is not pigment, it is the physical density of the hair structure on the leaf surface reflecting light back outward. And that same hair structure, that same dense mat of tiny fibers, dramatically reduces moisture evaporation from the leaf surface in heat and drought. Lamb's ear is not just drought tolerant by accident, it is drought engineered at the cellular level. In the hottest, driest weeks of an American summer, while other plants are wilting and struggling, lamb's ear is managing its own water loss with a biological system more sophisticated than anything you could spray on it. It spreads through stolons, horizontal surface stems that extend outward and root themselves at nodes as they travel. It fills in ground cover gaps steadily and reliably. It suppresses weeds effectively as its dense foliage closes in. In zones 6 and warmer, it remains semi-evergreen through winter, providing silver-white ground-level structure and color during the months when everything around it has gone gray and bare. Plant it as a flowing silver edge along pathways. Use it as a weed-suppressing ground cover between taller perennials. Run it as a connecting ribbon between color groupings that would otherwise look unrelated to each other. It visually unifies a border. It makes the whole planting feel intentional, considered, and designed. And it does all of that while requiring almost nothing from you in return. 10 plants in, and I want to say something to directly. If you have made it this far, you are serious about this. You are not a casual scroller. You want a garden that actually works. You want real information from someone who has gone deep enough to find it. That is exactly what this channel is built for. Every single week. Subscribe right now if you haven't already. Hit the bell so the next video actually finds you. Because the gardeners who subscribe today are the ones whose yards look completely different by this time next year. Be one of them. Plant 11. New England Aster. Every plant on this list earns its place from spring through summer. This one earns its place in October, when the first cold nights arrive, when everything else is slowing down, browning out, and preparing to go dormant. When most gardens have already surrendered to fall, this plant explodes, and it does it in colors so rich and saturated they look almost unreal against the golden and brown landscape surrounding them. Symphyotricum novae Anglia is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8, one of the most cold-hardy fall-blooming perennials available to American gardeners anywhere in the country. Daisy-like flowers in deep violet purple, rich lavender, bright pink, and pure white with golden yellow centers that glow in the lower autumn light. The color does not look washed out in fall the way so many plants do. It deepens, it saturates, it performs in September and October with the same intensity that summer plants perform in June. That is extraordinarily rare. Asters are among the very last reliable nectar sources available to monarch butterflies before they complete their full migration journey to Mexico. Research from Monarch Watch and multiple university entomology departments documents New England aster as a critical late-season fueling station on the eastern and central monarch flyways. Growing asters in your yard is one of the most direct, most concrete contributions a home gardener can make to monarch butterfly survival. In late May, pinch every stem back by half. In late June, pinch back by half again. 2 pinches, that is all. Those 2 cuts create a plant with dramatically more branching, dramatically more flower stems, and a dense, compact, self-supporting mound that does not need staking. Gardeners who skip this step get a plant that flops open in the center and produces a fraction of the blooms it was capable of. Gardeners who do it get a fall spectacle that stops every person who walks past their yard.
It spreads vigorously through rhizomes and self-seeds reliably. Divide every 3 years in early spring to keep it vigorous, productive, and multiplying into more free plants than you started with. And when a monarch butterfly lands on your asters in October, when you were sitting outside in a jacket because the mornings are cool now, coffee in hand, watching that migration pause in your yard for a moment before continuing south, that is the moment this entire list pays off. Every plant you put in the ground this April, every decision you made, that moment right there is what you planted for. Every plant on this list could be purchased in May, in June, some of them later than that. So why does April matter so much? Why is this video called Plant These in April and not Plant These whenever you get around to it? Because of what happens underground before you see anything happening above ground. In April, soil temperatures across most American growing zones sit between 50 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the precise biological window where perennial root systems establish fastest, grow most efficiently, and develop the deep anchoring structure they need to survive their first summer. Plant in that window, and roots have 8 to 10 full weeks to establish before peak summer heat arrives. 8 to 10 weeks of cool, moist, low-stress establishment that builds resilience into the plant at its most foundational level. Miss that window, plant in June or July, and those same roots are trying to establish in hot, dry, stressed soil conditions while simultaneously supporting a plant that is already trying to grow and bloom above ground. The energy demand splits, the establishment slows. The plant survives, but it does not thrive, not that first season, and first season establishment determines everything about long-term performance. Every plant planted in April will spread further, bloom more profusely, and establish more permanently than the identical plant put in the ground 6 weeks later. April is not a preference, it is a biological window with a closing date, and that window is open right now. Before you plant a single thing, these 3 rules determine whether everything you do this April succeeds or struggles. Most gardening content skips all 3 of them completely. Rule 1. Fix drainage before you plant anything. Poor drainage kills more spreading perennials than drought, cold, pests, and neglect combined. Before you put a single plant in the ground this April, test your drainage. Dig a hole 1 foot deep. Fill it completely with water. If that water has not fully drained within 1 hour, you have a drainage problem that will undermine every plant on this list. Fix it with coarse sand and compost worked deeply into the existing soil, or build a raised bed above the problem area. Do this once, do it right. It permanently changes what your soil can support. Rule 2. Division is free money. Use it. Every plant on this list can be divided. Most of them should be divided every 3 to 4 years to maintain peak performance. Every division is a complete, fully viable, blooming plant that costs you nothing beyond the time it takes to dig and separate it. At current nursery prices, $10 to $20 per perennial depending on variety, one mature, established clump yields $50 to $150 worth of free plants from a single morning with a garden fork and a sharp spade. You should never buy a plant twice that you already have growing in your yard. Rule 3. Leave the seed heads standing. Every autumn, the instinct is to cut everything down, clean it up, make it look tidy. Resist that instinct. The seed heads you cut down are the food source that goldfinches, sparrows, and chickadees depend on through winter. They are the overwintering habitat that beneficial insects need to complete their life cycles and return to your garden next spring. They are the natural reseeding mechanism that multiplies your plants for free while the ground is frozen. Leave them standing. Your garden will be more alive, more ecologically connected, and more naturally abundant for it, and you will do less work in the process. You just spent time learning 11 plants that will change what your yard looks and feels like by July, and keep changing it, keep improving it, keep expanding it for years from now, without you having to start over every spring. That is not just a gardening video. That is a plan, a real, specific, actionable plan for a yard that takes care of itself and rewards you more every single season. If this gave you even 1 plant you were going to put in the ground this April, subscribe right now, because next week we go just as deep, and the week after that. Every single week, this channel releases content at this level. Real plant knowledge, real zone-specific guidance, real information that saves you money and changes how your outdoor space performs. You do not want to be the person who finds this channel 6 months from now and wishes they had subscribed today. The gardeners who subscribed at the beginning of this video are already ahead. Join them right now. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and before you go, drop one comment below. Tell me which plant from this list you're putting in the ground first this April, and tell me what zone or state you are gardening in. I read every single comment, I respond to as many as I can, and your answers directly shape the videos I make next. This is your garden. This is your season. April is open right now. Go plant something.